This lecture will introduce ecological forecasting, the next frontier of research in ecology. I'm Ichiro, a professor from Cornell University. As you have seen this figure a few times, to realistically forecast ecosystem responses to environmental change, we need three elements: model structure to represent the real-world process that controls systems function, parameterization to reflect system's property, and external forcing variables that describe the environment experienced by an ecosystem. For this training course, we have studied the matrix approach to process-based modeling for carbon cycle. We have also studied data assimilation to estimate the parameter values. Training in this unit is focused on a working flow system, ecological platform for assimilating data, EcoPad, into model, to link real-time forcing to model forecasting. Before we get into ecological forecasting, let us learn something from weather forecasting. Probably everyone is very familiar with weather forecasting. First, please answer a few multiple choice questions. How frequently do you look at the weather forecasting? A. Never. B. Once every few days. C. Once a day. D. A few times a day. You may make your own choice. Why do you look at the weather forecasting? A. Deciding clothes to wear. B. Deciding what kind of outdoor activity to do. C. Deciding whether you will do some field research. Or D. Do something else. What do you think that the benefit weather forecasting brings to the society? A. Save life. B. Support emergency management. C. Mitigation of impact and prevent economic losses from high impact weather. D. Financial revenue in energy, agriculture, transport, and recreation sectors. E. All the above. According to a review paper by Peter Barnes and colleagues in 2015 and published in Nature, weather forecasting skill has steadily improving. The forecasting skill reached 98% by 2014 for 3 days weather forecast, and about 60% for 7 days weather forecast. I have a personal experience on accuracy of weather forecasting. I'm sure many of you may also noticed how accurate the weather forecast has become. The major milestones of weather forecasting, including knowing the laws of physics to make weather forecasting possible in 1901, developing and using supercomputing in 1970s, use satellite and other observations in 1980s, and use data assimilation in 1990s. For example, it is relatively well known that the physical process that determine the weather dynamic, including energy and water fluxes, momentum, transport, land surface conditions, among others. The numerical weather forecasting use extensive observations in data assimilation. Observations are used to constrain initial value every a few hours. The data assimilation method including 3D VAR, 4D VAR, and nowadays ensemble comma filter. As the computational power exponentially increases, Resolution of numerical weather prediction models accordingly increase over time. Weather forecasting uses data assimilation systems to integrate data from radar and other observations with a forecast model to generate weather patterns. In short, success in weather forecasting depends on understanding of a physical law to develop models, using supercomputing, collecting satellite and other data, and data assimilation. Ecological forecasting also needs those elements: process-based model, observations, data assimilation, and supercomputing. Hundreds of land carbon cycle models have been developed. Some models are more useful than others. Most of the models can incorporate major processes, are able to simulate carbon cycle dynamics. As shown in these slides, these 8 models with very different model structures, but all of them can simulate a general pattern of carbon cycle dynamic. Moreover, as we studied in units 1 to 5, land carbon cycle models satisfy 3 conditions for exponential stability as expressed in the metric form. The 3 conditions are: first, there is a carbon leaving individual pools as a plant mortality or decomposition of little or soil organic matter. Second, there is either no carbon flow between 2 pools when they are not connected, or some carbon flow from one pool to others. Third, the carbon that leaves one pool goes to other pools or loose from the system via respiration. This exponential stability means many carbon cycle processes are highly predictable. This is good news when we try to do ecological forecasting for land carbon cycle. Data availability is also high for carbon cycle forecasting. Data available for satellite remote sensing, observational networks, and manipulative experiments. There are dozens of satellites used for Earth observations, generate terabytes of data. Many network of observations has been developed to measure carbon cycle processes. For example, the AD-Flux network is measuring net ecosystem exchange between land and the atmosphere at hundreds of sites globally. NEON is a National Ecological Observatory network to measure many processes in ecosystem in USA. ICOS, an observatory network in Europe. There are networks of observations in Asia, Africa, Australia, and South America. Moreover, thousands of manipulative experiments have been conducted in field to examine ecosystem response to warming, rising atmospheric CO2 concentration, nitrogen deposition, and altered precipitation. Tons of the data are available from those experiments for ecological forecasting. The abundant data needs to be integrated with a model to constrain parameters and model structures as shown in this figure. Moreover, we need a data model consistent system to do ecological forecasting. Ecological forecasting can be used at a specific site to link models with individual experiments. Process-based models are used to represent various processes and their interactions within one system. Data assimilation enables enables close interaction between experiment and models. A workflow systems enables uses of observed forcing variables at the sites to drive model prediction. In the next few slides, I will focus on a workflow system for real-time experimental and model interactions. One of the systems for real-time experimental model interactions is described in a paper by Yuanyuan Huang and her colleague and published in Geoscientific Model Development in 2019. The system is an ecological platform for assimilating data, EcoPad, into models. EcoPad is a software system that links sensor networks to ecological forecasting. It integrates eco-informatics, web technology, ecological models, data assimilation techniques, and visualization. EcoPad was designed to promote interactions among the modeling, experimentation, and observations to gain the best science. This is a schematic diagram of EcoPad from the paper by Yuanyuan Huang and her colleagues. Their data and the models are integrated through data assimilation system before the trained models are used for forecasting, optimization of a measurement plan, and uncertainty analysis. The data to be integrated can come from the real-time sensor networks or from a spreadsheet with record of hand measurements. EcoPad offers three options, which are simulation, data assimilation, and forecasting, in response to a request from users. Once one user made a request, EcoPad can execute the task automatically to generate results. The generated results can be visualized in real time as well. Thus, EcoPad is an interactive software system for researchers to automatically execute model simulation, data simulation, and ecological forecasting in real or near-time fashion. We have applied EcoPad to spruce experimental sites. The spruce project is led by Paul Hansen at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. As you have already learned from the last two units, spruce is a whole ecosystem warming and CO2 enrichment experiment located in northern Minnesota. It has 5 levels of temperature treatments, 2 levels of CO2 concentrations. The experiments follow a grading design with 5 chambers for 5 levels of temperature treatment at ambient CO2 concentration, 5 chambers at elevated CO2 concentration. The project is very well equipped with a lot of real-time sensors and involve more than 100 scientists who make many kinds of measurements. The real-time sensors send data to data server. Data server also store the data from hand measurements. EcoPad automatically ingests data from data servers through web app for data simulation and forecasting. The forecast results are automatically sent to 2 sites, one at the spruce site and one at our lab website for visualization. EcoPad has done ecological forecasting automatically at midnight of Sunday every week since June 2016. So far, we have been continuously doing this data assimilation and forecasting for 4 years. The forecasting variables, including snow cover, soil thermodynamic, and frozen depths as described in Yuanyuan Huang's paper published in 2017. EcoPad also forecasts many carbon cycle variables such as gross primary production, net primary production, net ecosystem production, and ecosystem respiration as described in a paper by Jiang published in 2018. In past several years, Sean Ma has worked on methane data assimilation and forecasting. EcoPad can forecast methane fluxes and pathways as described in Sean's papers published in 2017. She has 2 more manuscripts at different stages of publication on data assimilation and forecasting for methane dynamics. We are applying EcoPad for data assimilation and ecological forecasting at Saviada LT Long-Term Ecological Research LTR site in New Mexico. Saviada LTR site currently has a few experiments going on. Those experiments are mainly related to precipitation and nitrogen fertilization. In addition, there are several long-term eddy flux styles measuring carbon, water, and energy fluxes for years. We are developing the capability to do real-time or near-time data assimilation and ecological forecasting at those experimental and eddy flux sites. In fact, EcoPad can be used as a smart experimental modeling system. First, the system can predict what ecosystem might respond to treatment. Once you select a site and decided your experimental plan. When we were writing a proposal to continue the LTR studies at Saviada, we used the TICO model to do so-called pre-experiment analysis on possible ecosystem responses to increasing variabilities in precipitation. The modeling result was included in the proposal. Once you get funding to do experiment, you can use the EcoPad to assimilate the data you are collecting to constrain model forecasts. The model forecasts what experimental responses might likely be in the rest of your experiment. The forecast ecosystem responses can be used as references for you to design your measurement plan. At the Spruce Project, Sean Ma's forecast results stimulate discussion about how much methane may be released through bubbling. Discussion on this issue lasted for a few weeks. Extensive discussion led to improvement of Sean's methane model, new ideas to design additional measurements of methane concentrations along the soil profile, and more collaborations between experimental and modeling teams. Moreover, the uncertainty analysis with EcoPad can tell us what those important data sets are we might want to collect in order to understand the system dynamic. During the course of our study, we can use EcoPad to periodically update the forecast by repeating steps 2 to 4. We are using EcoPad to do weekly forecast at the Spruce Project. During this process, we improve the models, experiments, and the data assimilation systems. Again, ecological forecasting ideally requires perfect model structure, perfect parameterization, real-time external forcing all line up. Thank you very much for your listening.